office and retail properties. We own the two high-rise office buildings to the north and to the south of the proposed project, as well as the 7th and Figueroa Street Shopping Center currently undergoing a significant renovation. This will house downtown's new Target store next year. We also own Bank of America Plaza on Bunker Hill. I want to be sure to let the committee know that Brookfield is not here in general opposition of this development. We are supportive, in fact, of a project that is well designed, does not devalue Brookfield's existing adjacent properties or burden its tenants, and that will ultimately become an asset to downtown. Brookfield's approach has been practical. We have met with the developers on several occasions, engaged our own experts, and met with LA DOT and planning officials. We have offered possible solutions, most all of which, I might add, are still under consideration today. We have a duty to our investors to protect the value of our assets. Brookfield wants this committee to know that it is willing to continue to put in the effort required to solve the significant problems raised by this project. But if they are not solved, we are prepared to do whatever is necessary to protect the value of our premier assets. The city must mitigate the very real, significant impacts of this project. This is a 2.4 million square foot project that should have multiple points of ingress and egress. Wilshire Boulevard should not be overburdened. Figueroa Street should not be the only northbound alternative for those exiting this project. This project should be consistent with the character of the surrounding developments in the financial district. I ask that you consider whether outward-facingly billboards of an unprecedented size, type, and brightness are truly necessary and desirable in the financial district. The fact is that signage and lighting of this scope and brightness will have a serious impact on our ability as a property owner to lease space in our buildings. Our two office buildings are less than 150 feet away from this proposed development and are directly in the face of the proposed signage. This will reduce our building's values and in turn the city's tax revenue as a result. Put yourself in the shoes of an executive or office worker occupying premium space at the top of our buildings. Unmitigated noise levels inside their office each time a helicopter takes off or lands is the equivalent of using a blender inside your office to make a smoothie, all to accommodate a few elite visitors. Lastly, I want to speak to our concerns about retail parking. We're in the midst, as I said earlier, of a $45 million renovation to our retail center. And we're very concerned that its valuable customer parking will be poached by visitors to the proposed project because its own retail facilities for parking are not required to have market-priced retail parking. And I want to be clear, we're talking about retail parking, not other types of parking. This project deserves due consideration by this committee. Please continue this matter to allow DOT, planning, the developers, and Brookfield to come to a resolution. I greatly appreciate your consideration of these important issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dezzutti. Next appellant, Mr. Joel Miller, and also the applicant. And Mr. Miller, if you give us a few minutes, I believe my colleague, we are a committee of two. He stepped out for a second.
Sure.
So everybody just take a deep breath, and we'll resume, and we'll hold the item on the floor until it gets back to the seat. Thank you. Okay. Now, my understanding is that Mr. Miller also represents the applicant, but I wanted to make sure I touched on all the appellants that are here present today. Are there any other appellants in this public hearing room at this time? Any other appellants? As I went through the cards, I didn't see any other one, but I want to make sure that I ask for your presence and your presentation if you are here. So, just for the record, no other appellants emerged on this request. So I'll ask.
Does it mean people in opposition? Is that?
Yeah, that formally appealed.
You mean legally?
Legally. Former, very formal appeals. That's what I'm asking for. Seeing none, Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Chairman Reyes and Councilman Krikorian. Before I begin, I just want to make sure that you have 3 documents in front of you that I think Michael distributed earlier. One is a brochure with a black cover. Another one is a matrix table that summarizes the sign district. And the third document is a letter authored by Mitch Menzer, our legal counsel from Paul Hastings.
By whom? I'm just kidding. Our former planning commissioner? No, just
Right.
kidding. Okay.
Okay. Well, good afternoon. My name is Joel Miller. I'm with SOMAS. Our address is 555 South Flower Street, Los Angeles, 90071. I'm here this afternoon representing Hanjin International Corporation, the owner, applicant, and developer of the Wilshire Grand Redevelopment Project. I'm also here representing Korea Air, a subsidiary of Hanjin, and Thomas Properties Group, the development manager. We're very excited about moving this iconic project forward. If you could look off to your right shoulder, you'll see a couple of images of the artist renderings of the elevations. This is the hotel tower, the office tower, and an elevation showing the plaza along Figueroa and 7th Street and the hotel. The redevelopment of the site covers about 3 acres of the block bounded by Figueroa to the east, Francisco Street to the west, Wilshire Boulevard on the north, and 7th Street on the south. For reasons of economic obsolescence, the applicant is proposing to demolish all of the existing improvements at the site and then construct those 2 towers that I just referred to. The 45-story hotel tower consisting of 560 rooms and 100 residential units, and the second tower, which is a 65-story office building having about 1.5 million square feet of office space. In addition, there will be a 6-story podium space that will include 275,000 square feet of hotel amenity and retail space. The community benefits brought by the project, which were alluded to by Councilwoman Perry, are commensurate with the significance of this project, and I'll speak to the community benefits in a second. But before I do, I'd like to acknowledge the city's thorough review and thorough critique of the development proposal.
Please continue.
And although the project may have appeared to move forward on an expeditious manner, the truth is that we've been in the entitlement process for about 18 months. And I could also assure you that your staff has sacrificed nothing in the review of this project. We may not have always agreed with the staff, but I believe that having their input has been invaluable and has resulted in a better project for the city. There are also many consultants who have played a pivotal role in bringing the project forward, and my role this afternoon is to ensure that if either of you have any questions, that I bring up the right expert, because among all of us, we will be able to answer any of your questions this afternoon. This project required 11 entitlements. One of them, which was subdivision map, was approved by the advisor agency on November 5th, and because it was not appealed, it's not before your committee this afternoon. Of the 10 remaining entitlements that we're seeking, we've accepted the Planning Commission's determination on all but one, and that one is the SUD for signage. What I'd like to do now is just call your attention to that table that I referenced a minute ago. That table shows the initial request by us, the staff's recommendation to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission's determination, and then the last column shows the appeal, our appeal to the Plum Committee. If there are any specific questions about this table, after my presentation, I'd be glad to bring Mark Montenegro from Rios Clemente Hale up to the podium to answer any questions you may have. Next, I'd like to refer you to page 18 in the large black brochure, which features the fiscal and economic benefits of this project. I'm not going to go through all the statistics that Councilwoman Perry mentioned, but I do want to call your attention to a couple very significant numbers on the right half of that page, which shows that the net new jobs net new jobs total 9,700, including 5,500 on site, and the city's tax revenue after stabilization is $23 million per year. In addition to the fiscal benefits, if you turn to page 49, which also has a post-it on it, you'll see that there are community benefits totaling, actually the total says 83 million, it's actually 74 million, as Councilwoman Perry mentioned. And there's been a slight reduction in that original figure, but still a very, very significant figure. I've distributed to you the letter from our legal counsel, Mitch Menzer. In summary, I just wanted to point out a couple of items. It explains our appeal to the City Planning Commission decision on the supplemental use district for signage. And I've also referenced the table that summarizes our appeal items. Next, the letter directly responds to all of the issues raised and corresponds to the city by the attorneys representing the two appellants. One you've heard from today, Brookfield Office Properties. Also, there have been numerous appeals in writing filed by the owners representatives of 1,000 Wilshire, which is just to the west of our site. But we feel we've adequately addressed all of those concerns. Lastly, the letter addresses two minor changes that we would like to see in the development agreement. I think Kevin Keller mentioned one of them, which is the estoppel certificate. We'd like to, well, at this point, we would be in agreement with the staff now that they feel it would be appropriate to include the estoppel certificate in the development agreement. The second change has to do with the effective date. This is a term that's defined in the development agreement. Unfortunately, the way it's defined is inconsistent with the vesting tentative map that was approved in November. Now, the vesting tentative map is regulated by the state government code, and it stipulates that you receive a vested right at the time the application is deemed complete for the subdivision. We are asking that the term effective date in the development agreement be the same, so they are consistent. Currently, in the development agreement, the effective date is the date at which time the development agreement is executed. We would like it to be consistent with the vesting map and make the effective date be the date that the application was deemed complete. We've reviewed the staff conditions. They were given to us earlier this afternoon. We are in agreement with those staff conditions that Kevin Keller mentioned. Also, I just wanted to address one issue that Jay Kim raised in reference to a question that Councilman Krikorian asked, which is if the project would move forward, would it foreclose any opportunity to allow 4 lanes along Francisco? And the answer to that is no. You could approve the project today. There still is adequate roadway and right-of-way within Francisco to allow for the 4 lanes. So we'll continue to work with DOT. We're confident that we'll get to a resolution on that matter. And those conclude my remarks. If you have any questions, I'd be glad to come back or bring the expert. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Miller. And any questions from Mr. Miller?
Just one quick one on the traffic flow issue, sir. There's adequate room on Francisco, you say, to possibly redo the configuration as a 4 lanes. But am I correct that there's not adequate room on Wilshire to create a 3rd left turn lane absent some further dedication?
Let Jay answer that.
Jay Kim from DOT again. On Francisco Street, the existing right-of-way is adequate, and so we could operationally change the to a 4-lane operation. That's not a problem. On Wilshire, it's a little more difficult. If you're looking at possibly adding a 3rd additional lane, normally you would have to have extra dedication and widening to accommodate that. What we're looking at today is possibly by reallocating one of the through lanes and perhaps not using that as a through lane and restriping it to a 3rd triple left, it's possible that could work. And that's only possible because the current conditions are such that the through volumes aren't as high.
Right.
And in the future, the predominant move actually will be the left turn movement. And as everyone knows, Wilshire really doesn't go that far beyond Figueroa. I mean, it eventually sort of dead ends. And so the conditions are kind of right for us to take all of that into consideration and try to balance the different flows and different traffic pattern changes that may emerge. And that's one thing that we're trying to evaluate is what are the changes that will occur if we were to rearrange the lane assignments, the queue lengths for the through movement versus the queue lengths that may be perhaps diminish if we have that 3rd triple left, and what does the balance of all of that affect not just only this project but any other adjacent projects in the area. So for us to fully evaluate that, we do need to do more of a micro model simulation to look at all those different aspects of traffic engineering issues that come up.
But even without that analysis, you're comfortable that it would be feasible to do that given the current width of Wilshire without further dedication, provided that you use the through option for the third lane?
Technically, yes. On Francisco, again, you do have the...
I'm just talking about Wilshire.
On Wilshire, if we were to just stay within the current roadway bed, and if we were just talking about reassigning one of the lanes, it's all feasible within the current configuration. We don't have to do anything. And so I think Mr. Jordan Miller is correct. If under that scenario, your action today, it wouldn't necessarily impact us to do that even in the future. So it doesn't necessarily foreclose that option. But again, we don't have a conclusion whether that's completely feasible or not today. Okay. And so, that's probably the best I can answer your question.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Now we'll begin on the public hearing process. We've heard from the appellants, the applicant, and I'd like to call up Laura Salagi. I apologize if I butchered your name there, but good afternoon, ma'am. Please give us your name and address for the record.
Pardon me?
Your name and address for the record.
Laura Salagi, 1072 Palms Boulevard, Venice. And Salagi was correct. Thank you.
Salagi, okay.
Yes. Okay. I'm not opposed to this project, but I urge this committee to deny the developer's appeal of the planning department decision regarding signage. The amount of electric signage sought by the developer is excessive and would turn an entire city block into a big advertisement, as well as create potential distractions for motorists on both city streets and Harbor Freeway. As for the architectural lighting on the towers, the Planning Commission president rightly said the developer hasn't presented anything to demonstrate how this unprecedented lighting would affect the city skyline. There is also no demonstration of how lighting, which is on 24 hours a day and changes at various intervals, would affect residential units and offices in the area. And the potential distraction of such an amount of lighting practically adjacent to the Harbor Freeway is of major concern. And I personally drive that section of the freeway regularly. And the idea that motorists could be distracted or their vision affected is very worrisome. And I also have another objection, and that is to the appeal on the grounds that it subverts the public process. This project went through planning and planning commission without objections from the developer, and at this last minute appeals the decision. I'm talking about, in relation to the signage. And this does not allow the public time to fully respond, and it puts additional burdens on everyone concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is Shiraz Tangri. Good afternoon, sir. Just give your name and address for the record. Just keep your eye on the clock. You got 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Council Member Shiraz Tangri. I'm here on behalf of the Downtown Neighborhood Council. I'm the planning co-chair for the Neighborhood Council and have been for something like the last 5 years. It's a pleasure to be here to speak in support of this project. We've seen a number of projects for downtown over the last decade or so, and most of them fall into the categories of these sort of the live and the play categories for downtown. Downtown has a motto, live, work, and play. And it's great to see a project that really has the emphasis on work. To have new office buildings coming into downtown, I think reaffirms that downtown is the headquarters capital of our region. It is the place where office workers, it's our primary office center. And adding to that office stock, I think reaffirms that downtown really is the center of commerce for the city. This particular location is truly deserving of the iconic architecture that's promised by this project. It's not only the intersection of two major corridors, north-south and east and west, it's also across the street from transit, and as those transit lines get improved by the development of the regional corridor, many, many people from all different parts of the city will have access by transit to be essentially across the street from this project when they exit the trains. The other thing that the Neighborhood Council truly appreciates about this project is its relationship to the street life and the improvement of the quality of the pedestrian interface. The existing building, while it has a certain level of retail, has narrow sidewalks, essentially to some degree turns its back on the street life that's already a very active pedestrian area, and the new project will truly enhance that pedestrian facade. And so we urge the council to approve the project. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. That was under 2 minutes. That was great. Dennis Hathaway.
Good afternoon, committee members. I'm Dennis Hathaway, president of the Coalition to Ban Billboard Blight. I'm here, my comments are only about the sign district and the appeal. I don't have any opposition to the project. I attended the City Planning Commission meeting, which went on for almost 7 hours, and much of that meeting was taken up with presentations and discussion about the sign district. And at that meeting, planners talked about how they had been working with the developer for months and reaching a consensus on the signage. And the developers never got up and disputed that characterization of things. And now, here they are with an appeal to greatly increase the amount of signage. And just for one example, the Planning Department recommended and the City Planning Commission approved signage, electronic signage, off-site advertising at the 7th Street frontage, the Wilshire Street frontage, and the corner of Wilshire and Figueroa of a total of 6,200 square feet. This appeal is asking for 28,500 square feet, a 360% increase. They're also asking for an unspecified number of super graphic signs, which the Planning Department had not recommended and the City Planning Commission had not approved. And finally, the developer wants this architectural lighting, even though the City Planning Commission disapproved of them on the grounds that there was no demonstration given at that meeting to show what this would actually look like. what kind of effect this would have on the city skyline. This is unprecedented. There's no other building in the city anything like this. And the Planning Commission said, we're not necessarily opposed to this, but we have to see this. We can't just approve this and, make it a test case and have something that could cause distraction on the freeway and so forth. So anyway, thank you very much. I urge you to vote against this appeal.
Thank you, Mr. Hathaway. Our next speaker, Thomas Walsh. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. 5252 Townsend Avenue, Los Angeles, 90041. My name is Thomas Walsh. I'm the president of Unite Here Local 11, representing the 20,000 hospitality and tourism workers in Los Angeles and Orange counties, including the 400 dishwashers and cooks and waiters and bellmen, many of whom are here, some of them in uniform, others not. We stand here...
From stand?
Sure. Local 11 members, please stand. Los miembros del local 11, por favor, párense.
Bienvenidos. Muchas gracias.
So we stand here today in support of the Wilshire Grand redevelopment. And, there are good development projects and there are not so good development projects. This is a good development project. In fact, it's a model, and it should be used for all future development projects. We reached an agreement with Harnjin and with Thomas Properties that does several very good things for our members. It guarantees that when the hotel reopens, that those people who want to reopen a brand new hotel will have the right to do that. They'll have their jobs back. It also provides for health benefits during the time that the hotel is closed, so that people will be able to continue to see the doctor. And in addition, obviously, it provides the wages and the benefits that people need and have right now while the old hotel is still functioning. We are in support of this project because it will, again, be a model for the community, and to those people who say signage is the most important issue, we say in this economy it's jobs, and it's good quality jobs. And the new hotel will be in a much better position to provide more full-time work and attract the much-needed conventions that we need in Los Angeles than the current Wilshire Grand Hotel is able to do. So to those people who want to bring up signage as an issue, we say please approve this project and do it as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. David Ewing? David Ewing? Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Before I start my time, can I just have a moment on a procedural issue, which is the amendments that were brought forward today by...
Let's start here 2 minutes. We're going to start here 2 minutes. This is a public hearing.
Okay. The amendments brought forward by Councilwoman Perry today constitute major changes to the application that were brought forward here without benefit of public notice. And considering what happened in the commission hearing where no objections were raised, this starts to seem like an orchestrated strategy. So I'd just like to put that out there.
Thank you.
I also do not object to the project, but I would like to comment on the signage. And I'd like to say that the signage and on the so-called architectural lighting, which started out as a request for signage and almost undoubtedly will revert to signage at some point in the future. But I'd like to talk the underlying dynamics of land use and signage. What happens is when you build something like this that's a major profit center, but that's illegal for a project's neighbors, you give that project not only an unfair advantage, but you create a problem for other developers. It becomes more expensive for them to develop their projects because land prices in Los Angeles depend on speculative concerns. So when landowners see entitlements going to a project like this on that kind of basis, they're going to set their land prices with that in consideration. And that's a very basic thing here in Los Angeles, our exceptions and quid pro quos are so extensive, so pervasive, that it has a major effect on the underlying land prices. So I would say on that basis, on an economic basis, for the surrounding area, it's important to keep things fair, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Next is Robbie Hunter. Good afternoon, sir.
Good morning. Good afternoon, council members. Robbie Hunter, representing the LA Orange County Building Trades, 150,000 construction workers. This project is, this is the type of project we want to see coming to this city. It's private money. It's an antiquated hotel, 55, almost 60 years old. Hanjin, the developer, and the developers of this project have made many commitments. They did an agreement with the hotel workers. They have done an agreement with the building trades to make sure that local construction workers and LA residents work on this project, given apprenticeship opportunities. There is no reason to believe that they won't do the same thing on the lighting. We would ask that this project move forward. I mean, this is a historic district for, and a commercial district for lighting, and often there are people and surrounding property owners are not happy with what they find when they think there's another development. But when they got their approvals, they were fine with it. At this time, we believe this project should move forward. The economics of the city could absolutely do with it. The tax base that this hotel would provide would be good for this city in these economic struggling times. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Hunter. We have Elizabeth Smajala. Is that accurate? I was trying my best. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Excuse me. Liz Smagala, 1900 Avenue of the Stars. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Jeffer Mangels, here today on behalf of Wilshire Boulevard Property, LLC, owners of the building at 1000 Wilshire, otherwise known as the Wedbush Building. We're not here to oppose the project per se, but we have asked for a continuance to allow the project developer and LADOT to finalize the traffic mitigation measures that have been discussed here today. We don't believe that this project is ready for your consideration until those mitigation measures have been worked out. Some other issues that you might want to consider: the transfer of floor area rights that the project applicant is requesting. It's 1.5 million square feet. Other projects have utilized the transfer of floor area rights, or the TFAR. The Metropolis project, it got 1.1 million square feet. It paid $21 a square foot. Park Fifth received almost 700 square feet. They paid $20 a square foot. 1133 South Hope, they only received 50,000 square feet. They paid almost $20 a square foot. My understanding is Wilshire Grand is paying $11 a square foot. There's a letter submitted to our office this afternoon about 1:15 that said that the amount is actually $17. Whatever the amount is, it seems to be the lowest ever paid per square foot for a transfer of floor area rights. So, given these issues, given the fact that the developer here is getting the single largest TFAR in history for the single lowest square footage payment, maybe this committee should take its time and make sure the city is getting everything it can from this project, including the mitigation measures requested by local area owners. And speaking of time, the councilwoman has said that they need their approvals by March 30th. That's 5 weeks away. Jay Kim has said he needs a few more weeks to run his models. Maybe we should allow that, continue this matter for 2 or 3 weeks, and see if we can come up with a solution that makes sure this project actually does move forward as requested. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next speaker is John Choi. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is John Choi. I'm at 2130 West James M. Wood Boulevard. Excuse me. Sorry about that. And I'm here speaking on behalf of Maria Elena Durazo, the Executive Secretary Treasurer of the LA County Federation of Labor. We represent hundreds of thousands of workers throughout LA County, including nurses, teachers, and firefighters, janitors and security guards, public sector employees, and workers in the entertainment industry. And of course, we represent the thousands of hotel workers and building trades members that will be affected by this project, many of whom are in the room today. And I'm here to urge you to vote in support of moving this project forward. As you consider the issues before you this afternoon, I would like to emphasize that the owner and development team for this project have shown a willingness to take into consideration the impacts this redevelopment will have on the hundreds of staff who currently work at the hotel. Furthermore, by agreeing to enter into a project labor agreement with the women and men of the building trades, Hanjin Corporation and Korean Air have shown an uncommon commitment to investing in creating thousands of good jobs for local Angelenos. In anxious economic times, this project is a beacon. It calls out for substantial community benefits, including investing in the city's aging infrastructure and adding to our workforce development programs. It calls out for the highly skilled women and men that will work for years either building or staffing this hotel. It calls out as a model for how to rebuild good jobs in LA. We understand that the signage has been raised as an issue of concern for this project, but it's our understanding that the developers have been meeting with representatives of the city for nearly a year on this issue, and that a process and a plan to move forward has been put together and agreed to by the city attorney's office. Signage is a key part of making this project financially feasible, and we urge that this item be moved forward today as submitted by the developer. The LA Labor Movement enthusiastically supports this project and calls for this committee to help put Angelenos back to work. Thank you for your time, and I urge you to vote in support of this project today.
Thank you. Next speaker is Alex DeGood.
Good afternoon, Alex DeGood, Jeffrey Mangles, Butler and Mitchell, 1900 Avenue of the Stars, representing 1000 Wilshire Boulevard, the adjacent property to the development. And as my colleague Lisa Magala just indicated, you know, we're not opposed to this development. We think it's actually has a lot of positives to it. But we have asked for just a little more time to look at what we think are some fairly significant mitigations that have to do with traffic and circulation. You heard from Mr. Kim earlier. We met with him on Friday. We outlined several. 4 lanes for Francisco, sounds like that can be done. The third left turn lane for Wilshire to go north on Figueroa, Mr. Kim needs a few more weeks. Seems like we have the time. Another mitigation that we've requested for months has been to take non-valet traffic in off of 7th Street. Currently it's configured so only valet can go in off 7th Street. 95% of the trips that this project will generate are going to go onto 1 block long Francisco, where 1000 Wilshire has its only ingress and egress. And we think if DOT can just be given the time and planning can be given the time, a few weeks to come back and say, look, we worked it out. We can do a third left turn lane on Wilshire. We can take a few more cars in directly from 7th, non-valet traffic, and alleviate some of the pressure on Francisco. We can do the 4 lanes on Francisco. We also think, while it doesn't exactly align with the downtown streetscape guidelines, that you could do an egress onto Figueroa. We think this project is large enough and dramatic enough and important enough that maybe there could be an exception made. I think that's something else that DOT could look at. And I also want to follow up on this concept of TFAR, 1.5 million square feet of TFAR, that by any calculation they're getting pretty cheaply. And if anything, that shows, and when you combine it with the signage that they're going to get tremendous revenue from, you know, this developer can take a little more time and a little more money and create a circulation plan that works for everyone. Works for us, works for Brookfield with their major office properties, and I think just a few-week continuance would be the right way to go about this, and we can come back and all hopefully be satisfied with this project. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Shamari Davis.
Good afternoon. My name is Shamari Davis. I'm a business rep with Electricians Union, IBEW Local 11. Time. How much time do we need to take? How much time can someone take when they have to feed their family? When they've spent thousands of hours training for a good job, for a good craft, what they could build with their hands, and they want to spend more time? People are losing their homes. They've dedicated their life to being a good tradesman. We've done our due diligence with time. It's time to move forward. This project has so many great community benefits. It's unprecedented. It is a template for how projects should happen in LA. And look at all this lighting. I'm an electrician, so that really excites me. Hey, can't you see yourself having lunch out there with all the lighting, and then if you forget to get a Coke, it comes right up. I love this project. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't. You know, we want to get back to work. This is LA, and when we get our stadium, they can stay there, and they can walk right down to the football stadium. It's a great project. Let's build it. We support it. Hanjin has brought it forward, and it's our time to do it.
Just for the record, you're not getting the royalties from Coke, are you?
I'm not.
I want to make sure, that's all.
Thank you. Please, we support this project. Thank you, Williams.
Thank you. Jim McQuestion, please. Good afternoon, sir.
Howdy. Jim McQuestion. This may be the best project since sliced bread. However, there are some difficulties with the project, and most of the difficulties that I am concerned with are difficulties where we don't seem to be following our own rules. Now, in the first place, we have all these pictures over here of something, but you know, and I know that pictures don't mean anything. We're talking about land use, and we're not talking about architectural design, really. And so we really need to cut down on this kind of presentation, I believe, and I wish you would do that. The other thing I want to say is that Black's Law Dictionary defines variance as a departure from the existing zoning. Now, we can say that practically any departure here is a variance because it's a departure from existing zoning. And it may be exactly what we need, but what we should be doing is doing this at the planning level so that everybody gets the chance, not just someone who has a lot of money and can spend time on great presentations. So I wish that we would concentrate on that. This is a great city, and it's a city where these things will be built because people want to come here. And so even though it looks like there may be a lot of jobs here, maybe there won't be. Maybe we won't get $22 million. It's all a gamble, and we're taking a gamble when we're approving these projects. So I wish that we would kind of cut down on the extraneous stuff and talk about land use rather than whether this is a good job for the economy.
Thank you, Mr. Queston. Thank you, sir. Next, Kevin Bass. And then we'll have Gary Cook. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Council. My name's Kevin Bass, and I represent 11,000 members with the Painters and Allied Trades Union. We do drywall, glass, and of course paint. This is a very important job for not only us, but for the city. This job will create a lot of jobs for us and the other unions, as was mentioned, and it will also enhance the other businesses for the area. The jobs that will be created here will be middle-class jobs that allow people to embark on new careers, and we'll be able to get a lot of people in the trades from this job. So we offer our full support for this job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Gary Cook. And then we'll have Ann Williams. Good afternoon, sir.
Councilman. Gary Cook, Plumbers Local 78, Los Angeles. Our address is 1111 West James M. Wood, 4 blocks from the proposed building. We stand in support of this project as moving the city forward. The city for many years has been dead and decaying as far as the tourist industry. This project, tying together with the streetcar coming in, the Staples Center football arena, the 6,000 rooms that will be needed, is going to help drive the new economic engine of the city, transferring the tax base across, encouraging businesses to come in. Gentlemen, I stand for you in support of the measure.
Thank you, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Ann Williams with the Central City Association. Our office is at 626 Wilshire Boulevard, Los Angeles. On behalf of CCA's 400 members, I want to express our strong support for the Wilshire Grand redevelopment project. This project holds so much opportunity for the continued positive transformation of downtown that it's not an overstatement to call it a game changer. The city has much to gain from the massive investment of private dollars, particularly during this lasting economic downturn. Over 7,000 on-site construction jobs and more than 5,000 construction-related jobs will be created. Downtown will get a new anchor at its southwestern gateway, and 7th Street will receive much-needed street improvements. The Wilshire Grand redevelopment project also builds on the $20 million Figueroa Corridor streetscape improvement project currently underway to improve Figueroa along the 3-mile stretch between the University Park area and downtown. This redevelopment project also maximizes our investment in public transportation because it's immediately adjacent to the heavily used 7th Street Metro Center Station, which is only going to be busier when the Regional Connector project moves forward over the next few years. Angelenos and the many, many tourists who use that 7th Street Metro station deserve to be greeted by a breathtaking street and skyline, and we believe the project furthers that goal. Finally, downtown Los Angeles has matured as a city in the past decade and increasingly embraces its potential to be a real downtown with the dynamic visual excitement and intensity of use that goes along with that. And the Wilshire Grand redevelopment is consistent with a modern vision of what a real downtown should look like in the 21st century. Thank you, and we hope you will support the project.
Thank you. Bernard Sitchell? Bernard Sitchell? Okay. You'll pass? Okay, we have, the first name has been erased, so the last name is Neksalyan. I don't want to butcher the name. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, City Council members. My name is Zerli Neksalyan with the Los Angeles Business Council, 2029 Century Park East, LA, California, 90067. I'm here in support for the redevelopment of Wilshire Grand. We urge the City of LA to work diligently with Hanjin International Corporation and Thomas Properties Group to expedite the project's investment of $1 billion into this crucial TOD project. The Wilshire Grand redevelopment project will fund a significant number of practical and effective solutions that the LABC supports in order to fix LA's economy, such as the creation of over 16,000 construction-related and permanent on-site high-quality jobs by investing in the construction of a hotel, office space, and residential units, the generation of over $20 million in annual tax revenues to the City of LA, and better connectivity of jobs and housing throughout the region with funding for Caltrans freeway improvements. For all the above reasons, LABC urges the City of LA to take all necessary steps to bring a highly beneficial project for the entire LA region quickly. Thank you.
That was Neksalyan, right?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Ron Miller? Mr. Ron Miller? Not here? Beverly Kenworthy? Beverly Kenworthy? Then we have Stuart Waldman. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, council members. Beverly Kenworthy from the Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce. The Chamber of Commerce, representing over 1,600 businesses, strongly supports this project. I don't want to be redundant. We agree with everything that everyone else has said.
Great.
We'd also like to publicly state that we support the amendments submitted by Councilmember Perry. If anybody knows this project and knows downtown, she and her staff do, and I know that they've been working with the applicant for many, many months. I'm tired of testifying on this project. We would like to see it approved as soon as possible. We think the benefits are just tremendous, and we look forward to seeing this move forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. Stuart Waldman. I'm president of the Valley Industry and Commerce Association. We're here to state our strong support for the proposed redevelopment of the Wilshire Grand. This investment will create thousands of good jobs, both during construction and after the new development is completed. This is precisely the new kind of development that we need during this economic downturn. The City of Los Angeles needs to take the steps necessary to help move this project ahead. This project will have major economic benefits for our community, including creation of thousands of new jobs, new tax revenues for the city, new high-quality hotel rooms to support the LA Convention Center. In these times of high unemployment and a struggling economy, the city needs to take steps necessary to support and encourage the billion-dollar investment that this project represents. A well-designed and well-executed signage and lighting program will also encourage pedestrian activity and promote tourism. The Wilshire Grand project is important for continuing the renaissance of downtown LA. Development of the project, including the proposed signage program, will enhance the value of neighboring properties by attracting investment and supporting the growth of tourism and convention center business. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Rosa Rivera. Rosa Rivera. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. My name is Rosa Rivera, 806 South 4th Street, Los Angeles, California, 92023. Today I'm here representing all the workers of the Wilshire Grand Hotel. I worked at this hotel for almost 21 years and 35 years working at the hotel industry. Since I came to Los Angeles in 1973, I saw many changes in Los Angeles area. But today is the time to make a change to my hotel. I feel this project like mine because I spent 21 years to my life and some workers 45 years. And I feel very proud to be part of this project, because everybody can make changes, and now is our time to make changes. I feel very proud to be part of this project, and I really appreciate to Hygiene International Corporation, Wilshire Grand, and Thomas Property to make possible the dream of the workers at the Wilshire Grand. This project can be part of me, but also is going to be for the new generations. And that's why I'm here today asking for your support to move this project as soon as possible. The longer you take it, the longer we can return to work, and we need to work. Our family depend on us. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you, Ms. Rivera. Thank you for taking the time. Russell Brown? And then we'll have Hamid Badad, and then we'll conclude with Mitch Menzer.
Russ Brown, 7-year resident of downtown 411 South Main Street, also with the D-Link Planning Committee and chair of our Transportation Committee, also executive director of the Historic Downtown Bid and CCA. This project's gone through more than 2 years of reviews. There's been almost 15 community meetings, and it's even gone through the Neighborhood Council's Plan Check group. We very much support it.
Mr. Brown, if I may ask, if you have conversations, please take it outside. Excuse me? Those of you having conversations in the back, please take it outside. It's hard to hear the speaker. Thank you. Can you bring back his time, please?
Thank you.
Can you add about 20 seconds? Thank you very much.
We very much support this project. There's probably not a better location in the entire city than directly across the street from every single light rail and heavy rail line and adjacent to the proposed streetcar. We've heard a lot about transit mobility here. There will be 90,000 new riders directly across the street from a regional connector with every single light rail connected across the street. Figueroa Corridor is already almost a freeway with 8 lanes of traffic. The last thing you need to do is to spend $20 million to improve pedestrian access by then widening the street to have more dedicated lanes. If you go to Francisco now, it's a dead street with about 5 or 6 parking spaces. You can do the existing 4 lanes within that existing footprint. The supplemental sign use district already has rules and regulations that most of the signage needs to be interior focused, and both the Hanover Tower and the proposed Fidham Tower were an expansion of the sign use district. Also, I feel very appropriate that the LED architectural lighting on the upper parts of the building with the restriction of no advertisement is appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hamid Badad, then we'll have Brian Lederman, and then we'll close public hearing because cards keep popping up. So
Good
this will be
afternoon.
closing the public hearing.
Good afternoon,
sir.
Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon. My name is Hamid Bedad. I'm the president of Central City Development Group. I'm also representing 1027 Wilshire and 1010 Wilshire and the Amidi Real Estate Group. We own a building, 1010 Wilshire, which is housing 227 units of live work, and we just obtained our entitlement for a 376 units across the street from 1027 Wilshire, former Woodbury College site. Our building, because of the elevation, have a lot of exposure toward the Wilshire Grand. In fact, perhaps more than Whitbush and Brookfield properties. And in addition to the general support that we have, the strong support that we have for this project, we're here to indicate that we have no problem whatsoever with the signage and lighting that this project has designed. In fact, our residents, because they live there 24 hours, have more exposure than anybody else on the surrounding buildings from this property, and we consider that an asset as a part of the urban living, and we have no problem with this lighting and signage. So we're here to strongly support it and urge this commission to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Ryan Lederman from DLA Piper, 1999 Avenue of the Stars. We represent Brookfield. And we just wanted to comment regarding the mitigation that is proposed at Figueroa and Wilshire. CEQA requires feasible mitigation. What we heard from Jay Kim today is we don't know if this is feasible. It sounds like it may. It seems like there might be adequate roadway width. But CEQA requires mitigation at a significantly impacted intersection. This intersection is impacted, and in order to make the findings to support approval and certification of this EIR, there needs to be adequate mitigation, and we just don't know. We need time. The city needs time to meet its legal obligation. In addition, we received 900 pages of materials on Friday, and in those 900 pages of material, there are a number of new, significantly impacted intersections. Those were not circulated publicly in the EIR, but with this additional analysis, there are new, significantly impacted intersections. Also, the stadium has been raised several times today. The EIR did not analyze any cumulative or related impacts as a result of the stadium. We saw with the analysis that was done in these 900 pages of additional traffic analysis and other analysis, the addition of one single office building that was omitted from the previous analysis in the EIR created new significant impacts at least one intersection. Once the stadium goes in, there'll be a number of other additionally significantly impacted intersections, and this analysis doesn't take that into account. Thank you.
Thank you. And before Mr. Menzer, there's a last card. It's Tracy Rafter. Tracy, you here? Now, then Mr. Menzer, and I promise you that's it. Good afternoon.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Rafter. I'm the CEO of the LA County Business Federation. We're a network of 70 established business groups throughout LA County. We represent about 110,000 business owners, small to large, and we very much support this project, the Wilshire Grand project. It, besides the $1 billion in private investment at this time, when the significant economic benefits to our community are crucial, the one thing that we all stand on as business owners, and I heard our friends in labor also say this, is jobs, jobs, jobs. So when we're looking at an estimated 12,000 jobs right now at this time, we're very supportive. Also, the $20 million that it's estimated to generate for the city of LA, we're very supportive of that because of the other consequences that the city's faced in having to cut services that are valuable. We believe that $20 million will go a long way to helping all of us that live in LA City. A project of this size can raise questions about viability, but Thomas Properties, Hanjin International, Korean Air, AC Martin, and other companies all affiliated with this project have an accountable and a successful development record in our city. We strongly support it and urge you to progress with speed. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Menzer.
Good afternoon. Mitch Menzer, counsel to the applicant, Hanjin International, 515 South Flower Street. I want to set the record straight on a number of issues and a number of statements that were made, and I'll try to do so briefly. The statement was made that the sign program is unprecedented in terms of brightness and scope, and I want to point out that this sign program is the most intensively studied in the city, starting with a great deal of technical analysis to set the correct brightness levels, to regulate motion and movement, and also to ensure that it's consistent and compatible with the financial district where it's located. So what we have are very detailed brightness limitations that are designed to make sure that the brightness doesn't exceed that of a typical office building. We also have additional brightness levels that are intended to make sure that there's no impact on residential uses. There are very detailed regulations as to how often the signage can change. And I want to assure you that this represents best practices and, in fact, is a template going forward for this type of electronic signage. These issues were vetted by the technical experts, by the planning department, and finally by the planning commission, and everyone's in agreement that those regulations are appropriate. We have an issue that we've raised as to the size of some of the signs that we think are necessary to make sure that those signs are consistent with the architecture and will fit in and be integrated with the architecture. And that's the issue that we've appealed to restore the original dimensions that we originally proposed. Also intensively studied is the possibility of noise from the helistop and how that might affect surrounding office uses. And in the most recent...
Is this the one with the smoothie?
This is the smoothie analogy. And in the additional responses to comments, there's again detailed analysis that shows, taking into account the noise insulation of a modern office building, the noise will be consistent with ordinary background noise and will be well within the speech interference standard, which would be applicable to a school perhaps. So we're very confident that the noise issue with respect to helicopters is well within all accepted standards. It was also a request from Brookfield that the city somehow enforce on this project restrictions on what could be charged for retail parking. And this stems from a parking arrangement that's in place at the Brookfield property that goes back to the time when the CRA financed that parking structure, and apparently also relates to terms that Brookfield negotiated with Target. But I think the city would be very ill-advised to get into the business of regulating what fair retail parking would be, or any parking rates would be at this project. In addition, there's been quite a bit stated about the need for a continuance to further study these traffic issues. And I want to put this into context because from the very beginning, our traffic engineers and our traffic consultants studied the possibility of egress onto Figueroa and 3 left turn lanes and a 4-lane Francisco configuration. And all of these were considered by DOT and rejected as unnecessary as infeasible. Even after the Planning Commission acted, Brookfield and 1000 Wilshire came forward and asked for these ideas to be considered further, and my client took them up on that, conducted additional studies, went to DOT, discussed these further, and again the response that we've heard is that they're very negative about the prospects of these ideas, with the exception of the configuration on Francisco. My point is that I want to make sure that we're not misleading ourselves into how much more we can continue to study these issues. And I hope that if there is to be further study, that this committee would instruct DOT to continue that and have all of that analysis ready by the time this project is before the City Council, so that we're not unnecessarily delaying this to continue something that's already been studied. A couple other quick points.
But I need you to conclude, Mr.
Okay.
Member.
Just to correct a couple of other points. The value of the TFAR was determined in an appraisal by the Department of General Services in accordance with the TFAR. We have every confidence that it's been properly priced, and we believe that there's plenty of TFAR available in the convention center. With that, I would only conclude that there are no new mitigation measures that there are no new significant impacts that have not been mitigated as a result of the additional response to comments, and there's no need for any further circulation of the EIR. And with
Thank
that,
you,
I'll
sir.
conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Menzer. Staff, can you come to the microphone? Planning staff. Now, our target date for the city council is March 9th, correct?
Yes, the Kevin Keller City Planning, I believe the item has a hold on the March 9th council date.
Okay, and that gives us a couple of weeks between now and then to drill down on some of the issues that have been raised before the committee. Would that be accurate?
Yes, that's couple weeks away.
Okay. Councilmember, I would like to propose that we schedule this item for next week, that we close the public hearing. There's issues that have come forward that are general in some instances, very specific in others. It give us time to address them within today and next week, and we can act on it. Hopefully we can act on it next week so we can meet the deadline. Now I'm hearing you loud and clear about the urgency of jobs. There's no taking away from that. But I do know we have some very small amount of flexibility, but we have it. And I want to be opportunistic with that, given the significance of this project, its importance to the city and to the region, but just as important to understand what we're laying down legally in various subject matters. And that being said, Councilman, would you agree if we can continue this for 1 week, we close public hearing?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, Mr. Reyes. Let me say, this is a tremendous a project of tremendous magnitude in its importance for downtown, and we've had a lot of comment here from proponents and sort of opponents, but really I haven't heard anybody come out in real opposition to this project, and I think that's because the more I hear about it, the better I like it, and the more people have talked about, it being a model for other kinds of development. I think that sounds right. I mean, it has the PLA, it has the collective bargaining guarantees, it's smart development as I see it, because it creates greater density near transit hubs. It's going to create good jobs that are available 365 days a year, not just a few days a year. And I think it sounds like something that conceptually is going to be very important to the city, and I want to applaud Councilmember Perry and her staff for shepherding this through. There are some issues, as you've pointed out, Mr. Chair, that I think ought to be resolvable one way or the other in fairly short order, and provided that we're not impacting on our date that we would come back to council, there wouldn't be any delay in the project at all, because we would still be back on council on the same day. But I do think it's important that we, particularly on this ingress and egress issue, I would like to see that have a little bit more attention. And the other question that I have that I haven't heard answered today is, because there was an appeal on the signage issue, I want to understand better how whether that has precedential impact on other signage restrictions that the city may have. I want to understand how it fits into our larger legal framework in our efforts to restrict super graphics and so on. I just need to understand that a little bit better and how that works. The other thing I'd like to understand is there was a lot of talk about the TFAR, and there was a lot of talk about the stadium. Part of the stadium proposal is the tearing down and potential reconstruction of the West Hall of the Convention Center, which, it seems to me, has implications on the availability of the TFAR arising from the Convention Center. Might be positive, might be negative. I don't know. I'd like to understand that a little bit better. And so I think, for all those reasons, and given the fact that we've had questions raised, we've had a lot of material submitted to us very recently, to me for the first time as I'm sitting here, I think it would be important for us to take a breath and take a moment to bring it back. But I think, for the most part, I think this sounds like a terrific project that we want to make sure works right. And let's take the extra week or so to do that.
Thank you for that, Councilmember. And again, I will do everything within my power as chair of this committee to keep this moving. I want to keep it within the framework that it was originally planned, but we cannot ignore the issues raised by Councilmember Krikorian, the issues raised by the folks here in front of us. I want to drill down a little bit more with our staff, both City Attorney's Office and Planning and DOT on some of these issues. And report backs that have been asked by Councilmember Krikorian, I would second that. Also, I want to push this forward as much as we can. So at the end of the next meeting, I want to know how we can move this forward while addressing the sensitive issues that impact the bigger legal question of the sign ordinance, as well as how we address the application of the TFARs and its timetables. I think the timing issue there is significant too. So I'm not trying to create roadblocks, I'm trying to create green lights here. I'm trying to figure out ways to move this forward because the jobs are sorely needed. Our image as an international city in the investment community is important as well. I want to demonstrate that this city can move forward while not being callous to the needs of all the stakeholders. So that being said, I would like to continue this item. This officially closes the public hearing. And next week will be about the discussion and movement of this project. And that will be the action of this committee. Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance. And Roberto, that takes us to item number 3.
Yes, council members. What's before you are findings as to the environmental effects of a haul route. The final EIR has been completed. This project was previously in your committee, but it was referred back to this committee by a motion by Councilman Garcetti. So what's before you are the findings as to the environmental impacts and also the appeal as to the requested haul route in CD 13.
Okay. Item 3, we have cards submitted by Mr. Bowman and Catherine Hennigan. There's only 2 cards. Is the appellant here in the room? The appellant, item 3. Seeing no one here. Mr. Bowman, would you like to speak?
Good afternoon, John Bowman, Elkins Colt, counsel for the developer, Claret Hollywood LLC. I plan to make a presentation basically in opposition to the appeal and in support of the building board's decision, but given that the appellants have not shown up today, I'll spare everyone the time and simply offer to answer any questions that the committee may have.
To deny the appeal, is that your position?
Deny the appeal.
Thank you. Ms. Hennigan, anything you'd like to add?
Hi, Catherine Hennigan on behalf of Council President Garcetti's office. I guess there was our office was notified that there was a discrepancy in the agendizing and notification the first time this went around. So Council President Garcetti, of course, wanted to set it straight and send it back to Plum. So we appreciate you hearing it again. But the Council President would ask that you deny the appeal. This is a great project. We've been supportive of the project, and we'd ask that you move it forward to Council with the denial of the appeal so they can get started.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to Adam Corey Johnson, the board secretary for the Building and Safety Commission, if you have any questions regarding the appeal.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for your patience. So we will move to deny the appeal. Have a second. That will action this committee. And last but not least, we have general comment, because that does take us to the agenda. And we have Jim McQuiston for general comment. Mr. McQuiston.
I won't hold you up a long time. Jim McQuiston. I said a lot of what I wanted to say at the item 2 because we really need to cut down on extraneous matters in the city. And one of the extraneous matters that we all know about is developers always bring in big pictures and we get excited about them. But when the project goes up, first of all, building and safety says, no, you can't do it that way, so that has to be redesigned. And then when the plans go out to the people who are building it, they find all sorts of problems, and so they never turn out the way they were advertised. Never. I've never seen it in all my time that a project, architectural rendering, actually was built that way. So I really beseech you, we are losing shape. In other words, what we really should be looking at are the things which are legally necessary. And when we look at all the buildings and the beautiful pictures, we forget about going after what is really important as far as the law is concerned. And if we do that, then what happens is planning says, why should we bother making good planning rules? Because we'll look at those pictures and do something different anyway. And what I'm saying is we really need planning in the city. That's why we have a planning department. And if they have to go through all these minutiae that somebody is trying to get around what they decided in the first place, then they just give up and they don't decide good stuff. And I think that this committee can do its part by just saying, hey, get those pictures out of here. We want to talk about nuts and bolts. And that way, we will start to influence planning to do the same thing too. And I think that's really my message for today.
Thank you, Mr. Grant. I just want to share with you that I learned a long time ago not to make decisions based on pictures. And so I appreciate it very much, and we do break down the dialogue. I have a city attorney here, CLA, and my able colleagues, but I thank you for that thought. But you should be rest assured, I learned a long time ago not to make decisions based on pictures. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.